Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Dill, I think one of the more fascinating storylines that we've seen throughout the first 3 weeks of the college football season, the emergence of true freshman Dylan Raiola for this Nebraska offense. And look, ever since Dylan committed to Nebraska, like we had high expectations for this kid, not only physically one of the more gifted quarterbacks we've seen coming out of high school in quite a long time, but what kind of made him different, what gave us a lot of confidence that he could be a winner as a true freshman, it kind of came between the years. You mean talk about a polished quarterback that is coming in with a strong understanding of the sport. That was always Dylan Raiola. And I think you're seeing it play out throughout the first 3 games of his career for Nebraska. Want to get into a little bit of the film and like what has stood out for Dylan during his first 3 weeks for Nebraska, and obviously the strength of defense you might see kind of take a jump as you get into Big Ten play. But I look at this Nebraska offense and say they're executing at a pretty dang high level. And you kind of just get the feeling that this Nebraska offense is going to translate into Big Ten play. Fired up to get into it. Now, before we do, and as always, the Nebraska fans, would love to hear from you guys in the comments section. We've obviously talked a lot about Dylan going back to the month of December when he flipped his commitment. The amount of support y'all have continued to show to the boys, it's been amazing. We appreciate you guys. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. And Dale, without further ado, I'll give you the T-box here. We've seen 3 games so far. This Nebraska offense is 26th in the country, scoring 34 points per game. What stands out to you the most about Dylan and his start of his Nebraska career?
And it's not just the on-field play, and obviously he's been really good there. Really, really strong start in terms of what he's doing, not really making many mistakes at all, being very accurate with the ball, all kind of things you were certainly hoping to see and have come to fruition. But I also think his moxie, his confidence, it seems like it's rubbing off on the whole program because they don't need to be perfect every second, every game to have things work out for them. It felt like last year, or the last couple of years, frankly, small mistakes would really snowball on them because they didn't have a quarterback who could rally the troops, rally that offense. So again, every minor mistake always felt like it was like, oh, same old Nebraska, same old Nebraska. It just doesn't feel that way anymore because they do have a quarterback, frankly, that I think you have a lot more confidence can kind of erase those mistakes for them.
Yeah, and I think what stands out to me when you kind of dive into some of the film, and we're going to get to that in just a second, one, they're treating him like a difference maker. And we said that before the season, that's important. Don't treat this kid like a true freshman because we both think he's more than a true freshman. They are asking him to push the ball down the field. I mean, 73.8% completion percentage, 5 touchdowns to 1 interception. Dill, that 1 interception, kind of garbage anyways. But more importantly, the average depth of target's 8.5 yards. That is higher than a lot of it. Bo Nix's average up to target at Oregon last year was 6.5 yards. They're asking Dylan to make some high-level throws. They are not treating him like a true freshman, and we always thought that was really important. But the number one thing that has really stood out to me, and I rarely say this about true freshman quarterbacks, his pocket awareness. You talk about the pressure-to-sack ratio being 4.6%. Now, that's kind of a weird stat and essentially kind of measuring how well quarterbacks deal with muddy pockets and how well they can avoid sacks. 4.6% is an incredible number. You take a look at Michael Penix last year, his was 8. And Michael Penix was like the king of avoiding sacks out of Washington last year. Dylan has been extremely impressive. And Dylan, you start getting into the film, it's a multitude of different things that you see from Dylan that you really like. One, you can fire up this 3rd and 11. He's going through his progressions. Obviously, the Nebraska offensive line and pass protection has been absolutely elite. Look at Turner Corcoran absolutely getting to work right now. But look at him climb the pocket, continuing to go through his progressions. And then when it's time to break the pocket and go extend the play, Dylan was never thought to be he's not a dual threat quarterback. Nebraska fans know that. But you talk about, I'm going to compare him to Patty Mahomes. He's carrying himself like Patty Mahomes. You talk about that awareness in terms of how to avoid pressure and how to extend plays for your wide receivers. That's what Dylan does. And then take a look at off-platform throw, hitting Rahmir Johnson right in the chest. This is a 3rd and 11 play. I think you would expect Rahmir Johnson to move the chains here. He ends up not moving the chains, but still, I mean, you talk about a quarterback that can elevate this offense and be a difference maker from the pocket and extending plays. Dylan's ability to not only avoid sacks, but extend plays and keep some of these plays alive. It's been incredible for a true freshman.
And that'll be kind of a big thing I think we continue to look at is can they keep drives alive that they just couldn't keep alive last
Yep.
year? That's like the fundamental difference between them winning probably 8 games and obviously what happened last year, only winning 5, was they just couldn't stay on the field if things didn't go perfect. And that's a big thing. Again, you look, this is probably a perfect example of it.
Love this.
Obviously, you get kind of backed up into that 2nd and 24 position. You now finally have a quarterback, and you also have some weapons on the edge who can make some plays, bail you out, and allow Nebraska to do what they want to do, and that's dominate time of possession, keep drives going for a really long time, and be able to physically wear teams down.
This is a punt every single day of the week for this Nebraska offense in 2023. Not with Dylan at quarterback. And I think what stands out to me here, this is not as flashy as what we just saw, but this is equally impressive. Like Turner Corcoran gets beat on the outside shoulder. And honestly, Turner Corcoran's been great in pass protection, but he went up against some good edge rushers against Colorado. You're going to get beat sometimes. Love this. Like, how many true freshmen are we going to see just kind of try to break the pocket and just kind of go run around with your like a chicken with your head cut off? You see a lot. Caleb Williams did that all the time last year for USC. Quiet feet in the pocket. I'm going to step up the interior offensive line, creating an ability to step up. And then I'm going to throw with anticipation to Nate Borkature over the middle of the field. I mean, this is some high-level stuff from a freshman quarterback, is 2nd and 24, turning into moving the chains. Those are the type of things that Nebraska did not get last year that they have in spades in the 2024 season.
Yeah, I think, again, it's such a huge luxury, I think, what they have. And it'll be –
I want to get into next, and sorry to kind of cut you off, and I've been working on that. People in the comment section have been grilling me. I want to talk about next the big time throws and how Nebraska and Coach Sat and Glenn Thomas, Matt Rhule, they are letting this kid like go be a difference maker for this offense. Right, 2nd and 9. This is early in the football game where you're kind of getting into the red area. We know Colorado's going to play a lot of man coverage here. We're going to go heavy play action. We're going to stalk block with Thomas Fidone right here, and we're going to end up running him on a wheel route. Dylan's like, I know I'm going to have this look. This is an extremely impressive throw. You end up drawing the pass interference, but Dylan Thomas can come down with this. I kind of expect Thomas to come down with some of these throws throughout the season. Do you get a throw much better? And again, that kind of walking that line between I'm going to make big time throws, but also only put it where my pass catcher can go make a play. These kind of throws, and we knew it coming out of high school. He's probably one of the best deep ball throwers we've seen coming out of high school in a very long time. It just doesn't get better than that from Dylan pushing the ball down the field.
And that'll be, again, I don't even think we've really got to see him scratch the surface because they've obviously played teams that are quite a bit inferior to them. They've been able to beat these teams up in the run game and really lean on it. But obviously, we get into the mix with teams like Ohio State and some of the big programs they're going to face in the Big Ten where it gets – you can't – I mean, yeah, I like what Nebraska has up front and what they can do running the ball. They're not going to pound the ball on Ohio State. Ohio State's going to be tough. They're going to put them in positions. And that's where, again, we just talked about it with C.J. Bailey at NC State. They weren't getting any plays from Grayson McCall. They bring in C.J. Bailey. You see an immediate difference where, well, you make 3 or 4 big-time throws a game. Again, Dylan Raiola really hasn't had to do it quite yet, but he has shown the ability, I think, when they get into big spots. If he can make 3, 4, 5, 6 of those plays a game against big teams, I think they immediately put themselves in the mix where obviously last year that just
didn't have that. And I totally agree. Like, you need a quarterback that if you want him to win at the highest level in the Big Ten and in all of college football, you need a difference maker at quarterback.
And especially where Nebraska's at in their development of the program. Like, they're not Ohio State yet. They haven't gotten it humming the way that some of these Big Ten programs have, whether it's Ohio State, Penn State, these teams that have kind of had 10 years, let's say, to build something up. Nebraska's in the midst of that, obviously coming off the Scott Frost era. They still need to kind of fill the rest of that team in. But when you have a quarterback who can immediately step in and make things happen on a level that not a lot of teams have, frankly, I think you start putting yourself in a position in it. It allows you, frankly, I think, to expedite the process of building that program up.
Yeah, and I think the last big-time throw I want to show, and we've all seen this one, but again, the confidence to go make this throw. One, nice roll. We're going to they'll cross your body. His whole body's like going to the sideline here. 50 air yards on the run, off platform, knowing dang well that Jalen Lloyd's running scot-free and say, if I can just get it into the area where Jalen Lloyd is, we're going to hit an explosive play here. Jalen Lloyd obviously doing a really good job working back to the football. How many quarterbacks in the country are not only willing to make that throw, but are able to make that throw? The answer is not many. Dylan's one of them. And obviously Jalen Lloyd doing a great job working back, creating an explosive play, another scoring drive for Nebraska. And then I think the last one I want to kind of highlight here is the ball placement. This is a throw that you kind of see in the NFL exclusively, but when you have a connection, when you have a playmaker like Jamal Banks, you can kind of make these throws. They'll back shoulder, you end up not completing it, but drawing a pass interference. Hey, we see single high coverage. We know we're going to be one-on-one on the boundary. Go give Jamal Banks a chance. And this is exactly where you want to throw it. Like, he's not throwing a fireball. He's not throwing it 50 yards down the field, but the ball placement is absolutely amazing out of Dylan Raiola here, drawing a pass interference, moving the chains. It's really everything. Like, I think SportsCenter is going to show the flashy throws, the one on the run, 50 air yards, going for 50 yards there. Those kind of throws. And then on top of that, like, we're not even going to show this, but making a check into a run play against UTEP in your first career start and going for 40 yards, like making on the line of scrimmage checks, all of those things have contributed to Dylan being a special quarterback. I think there's such a blend between, all right, you got a quarterback with just elite physical traits, but he's putting it together with the mental side of things as a true freshman. He's only going to get better in 2024. He's only going to get better in 2025 and 2026. We had high expectations. I think Dylan has kind of surpassed them throughout the start of the 2024 season.
100%. Even you look at that Jamal Banks play, that back shoulder route. I mean, again, one of those things, you don't need everyone to be perfect around you. You just need two guys. And obviously Nebraska, not only do they have the quarterback now, they have the wide receivers who can make that type of play. And those are going to be big things, I think, again, when you get into the tougher teams in this Big Ten schedule. Like, can they put themselves in better positions to compete? Because obviously last couple of years, you've seen big blowouts at times when you go play. And you've seen Nebraska keep games tight for sure. But you've obviously seen them go the Michigan route, let's say, from last year. If they can make more of those plays, that'll go a long way. In closing the gap,
how do you right now. Yeah, and how do you, like, win those close games? You need difference makers. And I think one of the things I give Matt Rhule a ton of credit for is, hey, we're not just going to throw a true freshman out. Like, I think it looked a lot different, quite frankly, if you threw Dylan Raiola out there with last year's offense, because there's not enough dudes there. Offensive line wasn't good enough. He made sure he has the pieces in place for a true freshman to have a lot of success. I think that made a lot of sense too, Dill. We'll close it out there. Appreciate you guys rocking with the boys. Again, if y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to y'all